I want to talk about the defensive side of the ball just really quick, because I know we're spending a lot of time on Williams, but there are two things that Sooner fan will tell you. One is we don't care about the quarterback recruiting as much as we care about the defensive tackle recruiting. All right, we don't care about the wide receiver recruiting as much as we care about the cornerback recruiting. And it just kind of dawned on me, and I apologize that I'm late with this, but Tunmise Adeleye is to me more important than a guy like Latrell McCutcheon, even as Latrell McCutcheon reopening his recruitment wounds Alabama, because Tunmise handles. I mean, there's a lot of dominoes with this kid, because Jack Sawyer's already committed to Ohio State. Do you realize how good Ohio State gets if they get Tunmise on one side and Jack Sawyer on the other? Do you know how good Florida gets if they get to add Tunmise to their defensive line, where they just sent Jabari Zuniga and Jonathan Grenard and
Gervin?
Yeah, and my goodness, Gervin Dexter. But if he comes to Oklahoma, right? One, he's charismatic enough to lead you. Two, you get him on one side and you get Ethan Downs on the other, right? And then you're able to sway some other recruits that might be on the fence about what Oklahoma can do from a production standpoint and from a get me to the league standpoint. And that's why I wanted to pivot to this, because we're talking about Williams, but Williams is kind of a solo act. He's kind of an isolated event, meaning he's not going to necessarily be the charismatic guy that Rattler is and get a bunch of kiddos in the boat, right?
It's good to have him, but he's not going to do that.
Right. Tunmise can do all of those things, and he can do it from the defensive line position, which is special because we don't really get to talk about defensive linemen leading in that way.
And he can do it from the fact that he has so many connections, not just in Texas, but now in Florida.
Right, at IMG Academy.
And I have witnessed it. I have watched how many gravitate to this guy yesterday. Yesterday was his birthday, and he's out there doing this stuff. And I talked to the strength and conditioning coach at IMG, and he said, look, we have to temper back his intensity. He has to know when to turn it off. He doesn't know that you have to turn off this intensity when you get off the field, because Tunmise, he has it. He has it all the time, 24/7. That's just who he is. And when you talk to him, you can see it. You can feel it. And he's very, very intense, but he's a good kid. Kids gravitate to him because they know that he wants to be good. He dropped from 260 pounds. He's now down to 248, and he wants to play it. He wants to play at like 270 in college and stuff like that. But he wanted to get it down to a good weight because he felt like he was carrying some bad weight. So he dropped his weight. He came up to me. He gets done doing a drill, the pad drill yesterday, and working on his swim move and his hands and stuff. And he's walking back, and he goes, "Hey, Drum, I need you to go on 247 and fix my weight to 248. You have me at 260 still." And I was like, okay, I'll do that. Like, just randomly out of the blue. And so we started to talk after the event. And I said, well, and I'm going to write about this today on OU Insider. So everybody's going to get to see and read it and hear it and all this stuff. And I'll give more in depth on OU Insider. But this right here was the best quote ever. I said, well, Oklahoma, you moved to Florida. You're still visiting Oklahoma March 26th or 28th. And he goes, and I had to recruit them to recruit me because they thought that when I moved to Florida, it was going to be one of those deals where I wanted to stay down there in the Southeast. I made it evident to them. I called them and told them, hey, I'm interested in you. I love Oklahoma. There's a reason why I visited so much. Please keep recruiting me. And they have, and they've recruited him really, really hard. And now he's going to take this unofficial visit and potentially an official visit after. He's going to take 3 officials before August 1st and 2 after, even though he's going to announce on August 1st he wants to take all 5 visits. So where Oklahoma lands and all that, I don't know.
Well, 2 things in there, right? And Tunmise tweets, and he knows that we read his tweets, and a lot of it was Gators. I'm really enjoying it down here, right? And there's also this aspect of you looked at his list of scheduled visits, which again he tweeted, which was very kind of him, and he's going to A&M for the red-white game, right? Like April 18th, he's going to be at ampersand U, and
right. But it's because they do family. So they do family weekends at IMG to let the kids go back. And that's the family weekend that he has. It just landed on that. And since he's visiting Oklahoma, he explained all of it to me.
Okay.
because I asked that. And he said, well, I'm spending the exact same amount of days, and all of them are unofficial visits. He said, because the spring game is closer for me because I'm from Houston to do the College Station thing. So
Kid
it
smart.
just made sense if
smart.
if my family can make it work to go to Norman in March and we can spread it out each month, that's what we're going to do. And that's how he's doing it. And he's a smart kid. He figured it all out and all this stuff. And him and his dad sit down and he said they lined everything out. And those were the 5 schools that he wanted to go to. And that's where they're going to visit. And I will say those are probably the 5 schools they're going to get official visits to, if I was going to guess.
Oh, yeah. And he hasn't swayed on those things. Like when he made his list, it was his list. And the only thing that kind of surprised me, if anything, was him taking the officials during the summer, right? Because I know that kiddos do it, right? And it's like June visits are a very big deal, and you schedule those months and months in advance. But I was surprised by that, knowing that his announcement date is August 1. So, and he also is going to stick to that. Now, I want to go from there into your news and notes from going to the camps and whatnot, because the kid that I had been most interested in was Mario, because Mario plays both way and plays 2 sports, right? He helped lead Plant City to its first state championship in the history of their program. They're playing center field, pitching, and batting, I think, 280. And he wants to play both. And now I get to mention with this, Dane Acker threw the first no-hitter in OU history since 1989, right? So did any of that come up? Does he still want to play both sports? What's he thinking?
Okay, so when I talked to Mario, and I'm going to get to talk to him and his coach later on this week when we stop by Plant City, but basically with him, it was Oklahoma. He was adamant about Oklahoma. He didn't really know that I was covering. He knew I was 247, but he didn't know that I was the OU 247 guy until later on. And he was talking to me about a couple of schools, and when he brought up Oklahoma, his eyes like lit up. And I said, "Why are you smiling?" He goes, "I just love Coach Simmons. He's like a father to me, man." Like, I go, "Really?" And he goes, "Yeah, I get that guy will talk to me and my family every day. He makes us feel like we're a part of his family, and that's what was really important to my family." And I said, "Well, so you're going to take a visit?" He goes, "Well, I was going to visit during the spring game, but Oklahoma wanted me to come to the spring game, but because of baseball, I want to do and see what the atmosphere is like during the game." So I would bet that the Tennessee game, just throwing this out there, you're going to get to see a lot of big names that weekend in Norman. And I would assume Mario Williams is going to be one of them. I would bet you that weekend has several big names. And another guy, Chambray Jackson, who is a 4-star defensive lineman from Orlando. And why is that important? And he tells me he's taking an official during the football season, likely the Tennessee game. Why is that important? His mom graduated from OU and ran track at Oklahoma and really wants him to go to OU. So OU is lucking into some very coincidental things and down here in the Southeast that hasn't been the case the past couple of years. Either that or they haven't – how about that? They haven't, I guess, piggybacked on those coincidental things that, I don't know. I'm gonna sometimes that there's been.
I'm gonna throw Kendall Dennis in this. I'm gonna throw Jaden Davis in this.
Right.
I'm
talking
gonna throw
like coincidentals and family members.
Well, no, I don't. I mean, it feels like here of late we've had a couple of kiddos that have had family members.
They're getting lucky.
Well, and it's starting to show because, like take one for instance that Oklahoma really wanted, ends up going to Texas, right? Mm-hmm. And look, I get that the family dynamic is big, and I get that legacies are tremendous, but getting a kid out of Florida just in general is a big deal to me because it produces the most
blue
chippers.
Amari Rogers from Dallas, and they had the dude's dad grandpa played on the 74 and 75 national title teams, and he grew up a diehard OU fan, and OU somehow, some way backed up on him, and he ends up at Florida, which is just ironic.
So when we talk about battles that Oklahoma's lost for kids they want, how many kids are we talking about, do you think?
No, I don't know. That's a good question.
No, I ask because, it feels like we end up coming up with this excuse that gets handed down to us about, yeah, we didn't really want that kid or we backed off, right? Or I'm going, wait a second, you guys wanted Alfred Collins, so don't tell me that.
No, I would never believe that one. The Amari Rogers one, I kind of believe just because he basically told me that Oklahoma hadn't been talking to him.
No, and I'm with that. It popped in my head, and I thought I would pose it to you.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I never really have sit there and actually done wrote down the names that look. This person they didn't back off of. They can say it all they want that they backed off of him, but we know that's not true.
Right.
I've never sat there and thought about that. That's a good question.
That's a good question. Like Marcel Brooks. Like everybody wanted Marcel Brooks.
Oh, no, they wanted him.
Yeah.
Because remember, he took an official visit even though he was committed to LSU. Mm-hmm. And I talked to Marcel at the All-American game. He was actually catching a punt, and he turned around and handed me the ball, and I said, we just started talking, because he was done with his little drill or whatnot. And I said, well, what about that OU visit? He said, look, man, I liked Oklahoma. He said, but my mama, my mama just didn't like it. He goes, I'm an inner city kid, and we just didn't fit there. And I said, that's fair. That's fair. Some kids don't fit.
Right. No, and
some kids do. That's what people need to realize. Recruiting it's not as black and white as this team wins or that team wins or this coach is cool and that coach isn't. That's not how it is. There's a lot of dynamics that go into making these kids fit into this school. That's their decision for the next 4 years.
Well, I also think that it comes back to a conversation about who actually has control in these situations, because those rankings matter for that reason in particular. People are still pursuing Zach Evans even as we speak, right? With him, I think, trending toward Florida, but I'm still going to pick A&M just because I picked A&M even when he was signed with Georgia. But if he's not that highly recruited...
You sure it's not Oklahoma? There's a rumor out there.
Man,
that made me so mad I had to chase that.
I was about to say, I flat out, I got DM'd about it a couple of times. I flat out just did not respond. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be over here while you guys chase this ghost.
After the fifth question and the third topic on our board, I figured I probably should go get a quote.
No, hey, look, I understand that, and I appreciate you doing the diligence on it.
And it really made me mad I had to take the time to do that.
but the point being, right, if he's a 3-star kid, he doesn't have this kind of sway, right?
No.
Whereas if you are a defensive tackle and you are a 4-star, you probably have a little bit more sway than a wide receiver who might be a 5-star, right? Because positional value in finding those kids. But also, there are kids that want to end up at a place where they frankly just don't want them or don't have any room. Like, for instance, getting to the bottom of the Darian Green-Warren situation last year, right? And how he ended up at Michigan and not at Oklahoma, growing up an Oklahoma fan, wanting to be at Oklahoma, being committed to Oklahoma. You're going, oh, okay. So we understand who has leverage in this situation and who doesn't. And I think that he's going to be an outstanding player for Michigan, and I can't wait to watch him play because he's just that good, right? But I think at one point, it's maybe some point during the summer, you and I need to just set aside half an hour to unpack leverage in recruiting, because I think so many people think that it's all the kids making decisions, and not really, because even after they make a decision, they might get kicked out of the boat. Like when LSU was coming on strong, and they were very much looking like a team that's about to play for a national championship. The scuttle around the kids was they kept kicking kids out of the boat. Like Major Burns ends up at Georgia. He wanted to be at LSU. It's those sorts of things. It's Dwight McGloin being so excited to be an LSU commit because it wasn't always true, right? He wasn't always going to have an opportunity to do that.
Yeah, no. Well, the prime example in 2021, Jai Hall.
Yeah.
I talked to him in person yesterday, and he talks about how much he loves Oklahoma, how much CeeDee Lamb is a person he idolizes and wants to be like. That's why he loves Oklahoma. To him, naming the top 4 2 hours later, and Oklahoma's not on it. Mm-hmm. So I texted him. I said, why wasn't OU on it? I knew the reason why, and I knew that there's situations going on. And he kept saying in the interview, and again, we'll have this on OU Insider, he kept saying, I have stuff I have to work on. And he kept saying, Coach Simmons says I have stuff I have to work on. Coach Riley says I have stuff I have to work on. Well, that stuff he has to work on is contingent on Oklahoma pushing for him. If Oklahoma pushes for Jai Hall is probably going to end up at Oklahoma. But they're not pushing for him because he has some problems behind the scenes that are making it an issue for him to be able to be to go to Oklahoma. And some schools will take a chance on that. But at wide receiver, Oklahoma doesn't have to do that.
Right.
No matter how good the kid is.
Right.
And that's one of those examples you're talking about. It doesn't work out for everybody because there are kids that get pushed out. And he's one of those kids, unfortunately, that's like Oklahoma's like, you know what? Would love to, but all those issues, we don't have to. We can go over here and get somebody similar. You know what I mean? So the different schools have different places they can do that. BB, LSU, they can do whatever they want at defensive back because they're going to get who they want at defensive back. Oklahoma can do it at wide receiver, quarterback, O-line. You know, that's just how it is. So, and I used to say running back, but we'll see if that ever happens again. After McClellan deal. So,
well, I think.
Go ahead. No, I'm done.
Okay.
That was it. I was just making a point.
No, and I appreciate you making that point. That is OU Insider lead staff writer Brandon Drum. Drum is going to be out and about all month because recruiting is well and truly. This is March season, which I really love because we're coming out of the dead period, so there's a lot more to talk about.
I have 8 days in Oklahoma. I'll be spending 8 days this month in Oklahoma. I'll be in Texas, Florida, Georgia, and D.C. the rest of the time. Right
on. Follow Brandon on the Twitters at Brandon Drum 247. He's also he lives on the board, guys. So if you're a VIP member, you already know this. If you're not, and you want more of these news and tidbits and insider scoop, you need to get on board. OUinsider.com is the place to be. Brandon, thanks so much, man.
I appreciate it.